Imp on the Ceiling. A few nights ago, I was asleep in bed. My husband and I had been watching TV, winding down from the day. My husband got up to turn off the television, and when he got back in bed, he accidentally woke me up. The TV was already off, so my eyes were already adjusted to the dark room. Fully awake, I see my husband curling up next to me and roll over to give him more room. Now on my back, I look up, and a shock went through me. There, right above my head on the ceiling, was this creature that I can only describe as an imp. It was dark, like a shadow, but had clear, defining lines. It was small, slightly bigger than a cat, and as I realized what I was seeing, it craned its neck, looking down and over its body to look at me. That's when I saw its face. Its head was very round and bald, and had human ears that seemed large for its size and stuck out from the very sides of its head. It had large dark eyes that were completely round and took up most of its face, leaving just a sliver of wrinkled forehead. Its cheeks were wrinkled and slightly sunken, and it had a small human nose. There was a wide mouth, with thin lips and a small chin. It had a small, spider-like body, with 6 legs, and on the end of each leg was a small gecko-like foot, with 3 suction-cup toes. And though it had a spider-like abdomen, I could see the bones of a human spine protruding from under its skin, ending in a small stubby tail. From its reaction, it was surprised, and knew that I had seen it. As soon as it looked at me, it scurried straight across the ceiling away from me and towards the door. It crawled over the door frame and was gone. As it skittered away, I struggled to reach the light switch by my bed, but by the time I got the light on, it was already gone. Hairy creatures at the door. In my late teens and early 20s, between 1973 and 1974, I saw weird, human-like, hairy hands scrabble beneath the space between the bottom of the kitchen door and the landing that led to a partially finished basement in our family home. Both sightings were late afternoon or early evening, when there was still daylight. One incident occurred in midsummer, and the other in early fall. Both events happened in the same way, with sudden loud scratching noises that caught our attention. The first time I saw them, I was with 3 of my friends, and the next time, with my little brother and 3 of our cousins. I was always the one to open the door, and it took every last ounce of courage I could muster to do it. Everyone would be screaming and freaking out. I felt compelled to calm them down, despite being terrified myself. Each time I whipped that door open, nothing would be there. The layout of our house is such that the basement door is in the kitchen in front of the kitchen table, where we would be sitting and visiting. In the basement, there were 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a bigger room with a ping-pong table in it, and an area for the furnace and water heater and laundry area. We lived in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, which is definitely not a tropical area, so I can't blame monkeys. In fact, Saskatchewan is smack dab in the middle of Canada, and our winters are long and freezing cold. In addition, North Battleford is a very small prairie city without a zoo of any kind, nor are there any nearby, and no one was advertising missing monkeys. Besides, these creatures were witnessed a year apart by different people, so the monkey thing is just not feasible. The hands I saw were small in size, about the size of those belonging to a spider monkey, and covered in a dark, wiry hair. They had long, jointed, humanoid-looking fingers, with human-like, yellowed nails. Their hairy arms were visible from just below the elbow, exposing their forearms and hands. On both occasions, They were stretching beneath the bottom of the door and scrabbling back and forth, frantically making loud, scratching sounds. There appeared to be at least 2 of them. Their movements were very fast and very aggressive. They scared the hell out of everyone. We had no evidence of wild animals being in the house, no signs of scat or destruction that would most certainly have been evident had wild animals somehow invaded our premises. Throughout the years, when recounting my story to people, they would brush it off as raccoons in the house. Raccoons would have caused a lot of destruction, and the hands certainly didn't look like raccoon paws. We also had a dog and a cat that lived in the house. They would probably have reacted had wild animals been living there. Both times the event occurred, the dog was at the lake with my parents, but my Siamese cat Jade was home. When these creatures appeared, Jade poked his head into the kitchen to see what all the commotion was, so he couldn't be blamed either. The freaky thing is that these things felt evil. Everyone who saw them agreed on that point. The hole in my wall. So I've always wondered what it would be like to experience something paranormal. Ever since I heard my brother and cousins talking about a woman they had seen floating through our old apartment when we were younger. They were so freaked out the next day and told my mum and aunt what they saw. A week later my grandpa died, though I'm not sure if it's connected, but I was so mad I missed the opportunity to see the lady walking around, though it soon faded. Years passed, and I'm 13 in a 4-bedroomed house with my mum, dad, and 3 brothers. I had the smallest room, and developed a bad habit of picking at the walls in my room, so I had all these holes going around the walls of my room that my dad was nice enough to paint beautifully for me. Underneath the walls where I picked were these horizontal wood panels that were probably 1 inch apart, and showed the darkness inside of my wall, though it didn't bother me. I mean, I'd been picking at these walls little by little for over a year. One day, I'm in my room watching TV, laying on my side, my right hand holding my head up, and I feel a hand placed on my left shoulder. My eyes pop, and I slowly turn around, only to see a hole that I had picked a while ago, with 1 inch gap. I shake my head, knowing I must have imagined it, and returned to watching television. Not a second later, I feel a hand on my left shoulder once again, but this time it squeezes it. I felt like the air got sucked out from me. I jumped out of my bed and ran into my brother's room screaming and crying that a hand grabbed me and touched my shoulder in the spot where it happened. It took a while to sleep again in that room. My dad resealed the holes, and I never picked at them again. What's currently weird for me, being 25 now, is that every time I lay across a bed and my feet are hanging out, I have to pull them all the way on the bed, because I'm terrified that I might feel a hand clutch my ankle. Night of the Mannequin Driver. The year was 1999. I don't remember the month, but it was the beginning of cold, stormy weather. I was living with my parents in Tranquility, California at the time. I was partying with some friends in the town of San Joaquin, which is 8 miles away from Tranquility. We were having a good time, and as the party went past midnight, I got into a fight with a guy that was drunk and causing trouble. I had had too much to drink as well, and after they broke us up, I decided it was time for me to go home. I come to the party with a friend of mine. We came in his car, and when I went looking for him, I was told he took off earlier with someone, and he didn't tell anyone where he was going or when he was coming back. Well, I didn't want to stick around anymore, so I started getting ready to walk home, using the main highway that connected the 2 towns. Others tried to persuade me to stay and wait for my friend to return, but in my state, my mind was made up. I remember it was cold and windy that night, and it wasn't the best decision for me to walk the 8 miles home alone. But I figured I would hitchhike, and hopefully somebody would give me a ride. I just wanted to get home and go to sleep. so I said my goodbyes and started walking. I was about a third of the way when I realised I had made a mistake. I should have stayed and waited for my lame friend. That's when I saw some headlights coming towards me in the same direction I was walking. I stuck out my thumb, and the car drove past me and kept going. Then another car came down the road and did the same thing. It was beginning to get very cold, and there were some lightning flashes. I was getting ready to turn around and go back when I saw another car coming down the road. So I stuck out my thumb, and it too drove past me. But as soon as it did, the brake lights came on, and it pulled over. I started running up to the car, relieved I was finally going to get a ride and get out of the cold. As I approached the car, the driver's door opened, and the driver got out. There was something totally wrong with the way he exited the vehicle. I mean, his body movements were sort of stiff and awkward. When I got closer, I started to say something, when suddenly a bright lightning bolt flashed across the sky. It lit up everything, and I got a good glimpse of the driver. He looked like one of those mannequins you see in the big department stores. A blank facial expression with a slight smile, and the way it was walking. Man, I became so frightened. Then the passenger door opened, and another occupant stepped out in the same awful manner. I could tell by its silhouette against the headlights shining down the road that it was a female. Another lightning bolt flashed, revealing she too was a dummy. I think I screamed. Then I ran to the cornfield that was next to the road. The corn was almost 6 feet tall and had recently been irrigated because I was running in mud that was up to my ankles. I just kept going, not stopping. It was tiring running through that mud, and just for a few minutes I did stop to catch my breath. In that moment, I could hear somewhere behind me the corn stalks being rustled. I was beginning to feel lightheaded and dizzy, like I was going to pass out. Then I heard car doors slamming shut and the sound of the car driving away. I didn't go back to the highway. No way. I was too scared. I kept plodding through the cornfield until I came out the other side. That's when I sort of collapsed. I was shaking all over. I stayed there for at least an hour before I headed back to San Joaquin. To this day, when I think back, it could have been someone playing a joke, just to scare people. I don't know. They looked real to me. It was like a nightmare. The Twisted Creature. This story took place when I was 17. I was spending the night with my friend, and had no time to shower before leaving my own house, so I decided to take one at my friend's. It was already night by the time I got to her house. I've always had a feeling of dread anywhere in her house, especially in the bathroom. Now my friend Anna had a glass shower door. You could perfectly see through it at anywhere in the bathroom. I never shut the bathroom door because it had a habit of getting stuck, only on me. I wouldn't open until Anna would force it open. Mind you, there was nothing wrong with this door. I was showering with the door open that night, so it wouldn't get stuck. Anna was sitting in the living room watching TV. The living room is on the other side of the bathroom, so there's no way to see it from the bathroom and vice versa. When I had turned around to face the door, I saw someone standing in the doorway. Something dressed in black. It appeared to be peeking around the corner. So, thinking Anna was playing a trick on me, I immediately asked, "Anna, are you standing in the doorway?" She replied, "No, I'm in the living room still." I freaked, opened the door to the shower, and saw it. This thing was almost wrapped around the side of the wall, with its head twisted around and pressed to the wall. It was like it had turned its head completely upside down, but was standing. It stayed there for a moment, just staring and twisted, until I yelled for Anna. I yelled frantically for her to get into the bathroom. By the time she got there, It was gone. I didn't see where it went. It just sort of disappeared like it was never there. When Anna got to the bathroom, she looked everywhere for something that may have been giving some sort of reflection, but nothing was found. I finished showering rather quick, and made Anna stay in the doorway until I was done. Also, the front and back door were visible to where Anna was sitting in the living room, so no one was able to sneak past her and into or out of the house without her seeing them. We tried numerous times to duplicate the contortion of the image I had seen, but were unable to. We are not sure what or who it was until this day, and I haven't seen it since then. I am now very uneasy about showering at other people's houses.
Want to make sure you never miss a new release from the official Creepypasta.com YouTube channel again? Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to turn on notifications.